The Panther 6 was properly bonkers. It looked like it had landed straight from the set of Thunderbirds. It was 16 foot long, 7 foot wide, capable of 200 miles an hour with a turbocharged Cadillac engine. Sadly, it never went into series production before Panther themselves went bust in 1979. However, the story of the only two cars ever built is almost as bonkers as the car itself. First off, I have to thank Tony Press, who dropped me a message saying, I wonder whatever happened to these cars. And to be honest, it triggered a memory in my mind from when I was about 10 years old when this car was launched. Just to clarify, we're not going to talk about the production history of the car. We want to look at what happened to the only two cars that were built, and they both had very different backgrounds. Number one car was the original black show car built by Panther themselves and launched at the 1977 Motor Fair. The second car, number two we'll call it, was purchased after the company went bust. It was built up basically from parts, built privately and then finished off some fettling at the factory. That first car was originally registered in October 1977 with a private plate Rob 10. Which was the private plate of the owner of Panther, Robert Jankel. Not long after, it was changed to XPE 384S, and apparently not long after that, the colour of the car was also changed to blue over silver. It's believed this was possibly Panther themselves trying to make out there were more than one car being built to try and improve the potential sales. There are a lot of period photos of this car, because it was their combined motor show car, press car and demonstrator, I guess. Following the collapse of Panther in 1979, the first time I come across this car is in these pictures on the Supercar Nostalgia website, where it was in London in 1981. As you can see, it's still sporting its blue over silver paint job and still looking in pretty good condition. It then reappears the following year in these pictures I found by Benoit Dujardin on Flickr. This is 1982, and as you can see, the car's got another new paint job because it's now white over black or a very dark blue. And somewhere not long after this, it appeared for sale with a dealer called Straight 8, which I believe was a Bentley dealer in London, initially for $110,000, and I believe it reappeared again in about 1986, up for sale for about $150,000. So whether these reflect change of ownerships, unfortunately our records don't go back that far. The last pictures I can find on the internet of this car are by Terry on the Panther Car Club, where it shows the car at the NEC Classic Show in 1992. I then had a stroke of luck. In this post on the Autoshite forum, someone mentioned a short-lived magazine which had a feature regarding the car and how it had been discovered. Incredibly, in my rather boring contact list, I have two of the three biggest collectors of niche automotive car magazines, and one of them came up trumps for me and found that very magazine. Alternative Car World magazine of August-September 1994 carried a several-page feature by journalist Chris Rees, where he'd met up with members of the Panther Car Club at a rural location in Norfolk, where the Panther Six and other luxury cars were being stored. This car was definitely number one. It was right-hand drive, and it also had the conventionally opening bonnet. Number two had a different style of bonnet. It flipped forward like an E-Type. The futuristic LED dashboard had been replaced by more conventional clocks. The turbocharged Cadillac engine had been replaced by a small capacity Oldsmobile engine, and the rather futuristic looking original wheels had been replaced by some more contemporary cross-spoke alloy wheels. There were attempts to get the car going, but unfortunately they weren't able to make it run, but did push it out into the sunlight and take the photos. According to the article, the car could be for sale, but apparently the owner had turned down offers in excess of the £150,000 that had been previously asked for the car. It's a great car, but I wouldn't have shaken your hand at that kind of money. And that's as far as I get with tangible evidence of where this car is. There's lots of comments that this car allegedly went to Saudi Arabia in the mid-90s. I can find nothing solid, unfortunately, to back that up. On the AR Online website, I found a comment where someone said this car had been spotted in March 2024 at the Riyadh Motor Show. I've gone through hours of footage people have taken in that show. I can't see it anywhere. So if anybody's got images of it there, that would be great to see those. And the other comment I found on another YouTube video was the car was found about 6 years ago and has now been painted purple. But again, apart from that one line comment, I can't find anything to back that up. And of course, it could just be still sat in that barn in rural Norfolk. Interestingly, if we look at DVLA, we can see that XPE 384S hasn't been taxed since 1981, so it didn't look like it got much use while it was in the UK, and its last V5 was actually issued in 2006. So after that rather disappointing end to number one's history, let's see what we can find about number two, and this is where it gets a bit more tasty. Number two was built after the Panther factory had gone bust and was built in left-hand drive format by a chap called Albert Mirko. Now, he apparently was secretary and chauffeur to one of the Saudi royal family. Now, this of course could be where a lot of the connections with this car and Saudi come from. There are some significant differences between this and number one. As mentioned earlier, this one's left-hand drive. It's got an upswept back of the bonnet which covers the wiper area. It's got a vertical bar in the middle of the front grille, and also it has more conventional seats and dashboard. The original number one car had like a bench seat arrangement at the front. Number two car was originally painted dark metallic blue and appeared for sale with Bentley dealer straight A in around 1985, and priced at, depending on where you look on the internet, 90,000, 130,000 or 150,000. But hang on, haven't we had this story already? Yes, this was attached to number one as well. So it appears one of these cars was up for sale in the mid-80s, but obviously without any pictorial evidence, it's very difficult to ascertain which one. Sometime in the late 80s or early 90s, I believe, this car made its way over to Vancouver on the western side of Canada. Once it arrived, it was subject to a full rebuild. I also managed to get into contact with Corey Elwin, who did the mechanical restoration on the car, and he's also very kindly sent me some pictures of his time working on the car there, so thank you, Corey. And the last time he saw it, when it was being loaded on a ship at Vancouver docks. The next time I come across the car is when it's stuck in customs in a Greek dockyard. So who connects all this global travel of this car from England over to the west side of Canada and now to Greece? The only person I can find that fits all the facts I've found is a chap called Michael Kapustin, who was a Yugoslav-born Canadian who had moved to Bulgaria for business, and he ended up sadly being jailed between 1996 and 2008, and his movement sort of follows where the car has been. Now, I did try and contact Michael, but unfortunately he didn't get back to me. Incredibly, a British lawyer managed to open negotiations with Michael to purchase the car whilst he was in jail in Bulgaria. They managed to agree a sale and he got it released to customs and returned to the UK. There's this 2005 picture of the car on the Panther Car Club website, and it shows it sort of looking very unloved and covered in dust, and I imagine that is when it was stuck in the customs in Greece. Following a recommission, the car appeared at the 2008 NEC Classic Car Show and managed to win Best in Show. In late 2009, it appeared for sale with classic car dealers Kidsons in the UK, with an asking price of £150,000, which seems to be a very common asking price for this car, I've noticed. But it doesn't appear that they managed to sell it, because when it was featured in Octane magazine in October 2010, it was still mentioned that the car was for sale with Kidsons. It also did appear that year at the NEC Classic Car Show, as can be seen in these Flickr pictures by Dale Chappell. It then appeared in Bonham's sale at Monaco in May 2011, where it eventually sold for a total of €41,400, which is quite a long way short of the previous £150,000 asking price. Its last appearance I can find was in 2015, when it appeared at a Concours d'Elegance at the Villa d'Este in northern Italy. It was entered by a chap called Albert Faulman, and as you can see, it was still drivable. It appears to still have the original V8 engine with the twin turbos and looks in good condition. But there's one really interesting thing. it's sporting XPE 384S, the registration number of number 1, but this is car number 2. Let's take a quick step back here. At the Bonhams auction in 2011, the registration number is listed as being XPE 354S. Now I think that's a slip of the fingers, and the reason I think that is if you look at the square keypad on the keyboard, the 5 is next to an 8, could be an easy mistake. The other thing is XPE 354S is actually registered to an 1800cc MGB, which was exported from the UK in 2007. But interestingly, further on in the auction description, Bonhams say they have a V5 for the car, but unfortunately are unable to find a chassis number on the car itself. Now, of course, the registration number from number 1 could have been transferred as a private plate from number 1 to number 2. It could explain why the last V5 was issued in 2006 for 384S, which was shortly after the car had returned from Greece, and also it was 8 years after the last sighting of number 1. Or there could be something else going on. I'll let you guys work that one out. Thank you so much for watching.